as he brings today's lesson.
Coordination that it took, people had to be all in. Now, there's one guy who wasn't all in. He was pretty important. He was the ice cream guy. He was going to bring a truck with all the ice cream, and you might remember, you've seen them, I'm sure, big old buckets like this, cardboard. And he's supposed to be there in time to set it out and let it get soft enough that it could be dipped and put into the rain gutters that were holding the banana split. He didn't do it. And therefore, in this window that we had to be quick. And there were these big frozen balls of ice cream that no one could scoop off, and just had to set them on the rain gutters all around. When everybody who was there, was it Freed Hardeman? Probably 5,000 or 6,000 people came in that weekend for homecoming, and they all got to go in there and eat. Murray, I know you're out. I know you're out. There's others that are out. But there were some people, oh, Tim's out. There's some other people who are all in now on something else. Because when it was finished, all the people wanted to eat. There were people all in on picking up these frozen things of ice cream and chasing people around and rubbing it on them. That event, we were all in. And you want to see a picture of that, it's in my office. But I've thought about that, or I think about that every now and then when I consider the idea of being all in on something. For a few minutes, I want you to notice that God wants us to be all in. And I found this, what for me was a pretty interesting way on the negative side to tell us what it means. I had never sat down before and just wrote down all the things that the gospel writers wrote that said the Pharisees, the scribes, the leaders set out to kill him eventually, but they plotted against him, and they had things going, trying to figure out a way to trip him up, to catch him, to do something. And I looked at all of those today. And after he healed a guy on the Sabbath day, they plotted and said, we're all in. We got to stop this guy. And then in Matthew 21, he told a parable about vine dressers who were taking care of a man's grape vineyard. And he was away, and he sent some people to reap the harvest, and they said, hey, if we kill these servants, then maybe we'll get this vineyard. And they did. And then he sent his own son. And they said, oh, if we kill him, we'll sure get it. And all those leaders knew that Jesus was talking about them. And they said, we're all in. We got to stop this guy. And then in Matthew 23, he talked about they were all a bunch of hypocrites. And he told us what's going to happen to Jerusalem. And then he described that judgment scene in Matthew 25. And then in chapter 26, these same leaders said, we're all in. We can't stand this. We got to stop it. When he went through the temple and he cleansed it because they were doing things there they shouldn't be doing, Mark 11, they rose up together, all these leaders, and said, we're all in. We got to stop this guy. Chapter 12, when he said of Mark, you got to pay your taxes to Caesar. Oh, no, we all in trying to get him. In John 5, he healed a guy at the pool of Bethesda, and it created such a stir because the people were so much on his side. They plotted against him again. We're all in. We can't have this. In John 7, when he let them know that he is in fact God, oh, we're not going to stand for that. We're all in. And when he raised Lazarus from the dead, and all the people were thinking how great he is, these leaders were on the side plotting. Until finally, as all gospel accounts record, they were all in. We're going to kill him. Now that's an example of what it means to be all in. And those times when they were trying to get him, it happened all throughout his ministry. And these are only the ones that are recorded. I can only imagine other things that were happening where they were pursuing him. They wanted him. Look at Romans chapter 14 and verse number 19. Let me show you something I think is interesting. Therefore, let us pursue the things which make for peace, and the things by which one may edify another. Now notice that word, pursue. The word is, in the Greek, dioko, and its literal meaning is to go after, to pursue. It and its other forms are used in the New Testament 45 times, most often translated persecute. And persecute is, I suppose, the most intense form of pursuit. You remember once that Paul was in prison and he found out that there were a bunch of men who were under a vow. They're not going to eat until they kill Paul. When you have that kind of pursuit in your mind, when you decide, I'm going after something and I'm not going to do so-and-so until I get there. Now you think about that. There's a pursuit there. Until I get so-and-so, I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to, you fill in the blank. Well, that's this word. And that's what God said. I want you to dioko these things that make for peace. Here's what I think he's saying. I think God intends for us to pursue him to the same degree that people pursue others to persecute them. Now you think about what you've read about persecution. You think about how they tracked them down, how they did whatever they had to do to catch these people. Saul was the main one, obviously. If you ever want to and you decide to read Fox's Book of Martyrs, and you read actual stories about how Christians were pursued and persecuted to death, and the intensity, the the effort that's there. That's this word. In other words, God really is saying to us, you better be all in. Now, on another occasion, he said, if you're not for me, you are against me. In other words, all in. And this idea of being all in is what I think is going on in our text of Matthew 22. So you might want to go back there and we'll look at this one verse and just notice what's happening. It's right in the middle of another one of these events where the leaders were out to get him. In fact, the whole chapter describes that. The Pharisees were out to get him, the Sadducees, then the lawyers got involved, the scribes. This whole chapter is about them pursuing Jesus to shut him up, to stop him. And in trying to do so, these Pharisees got together and they had a lawyer amongst them. And he asked a question. Which is the greatest commandment in the law? Thought they got him. Because, you see, the Sadducees and the Pharisees were the law people. And they really pushed the idea of keeping law. The Sadducees particularly had identified about 633 laws that God said they had to keep. So they were big on it. And so when this lawyer comes in and he's going to say something, these scribes who had copied the law their entire lives, that's what they did. They were so intense on the law, they could make sure they copied it right by they knew what letter should be in the middle of this line. That's how tedious they were. It's also interesting, when they copied the Old Testament, they would write and write and write, and when they came to writing the four letters, Yahweh, Jehovah, not Lord, Yahweh, Jehovah, they got up from their seats, went and took a bath and changed clothes, came back, wrote the four letters, got up, took a bath, changed clothes, and came back and kept writing. And if they wrote the word Jehovah 10 times in a day, they took 10 baths and 20 changes of clothes. These people were intent on the law. Now, what's interesting here is when Jesus answered the question. I didn't know this until today. It is apparently the case that these lawyers, these scribes, had one of those phylacteries right here. A headband with a little box. And in this box, they kept these two things that Jesus said. So here is this lawyer trying to trick Jesus, wearing on his head the very things that Jesus is going to say, and he's trying to somehow manipulate Jesus into making a mistake. And here was Jesus' answer, basically. I'll tell you what the greatest law is. You got to be all in. And here's how Jesus defined all in. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Now, Mark and Luke, recording it, added the word strength. He's quoting Deuteronomy 6 and verse 5 from our text this morning. And in that text, the word strength is not there. However, it is in the Septuagint version. And I read today that the word for heart in the Hebrew includes not only the heart, but it also includes the strength. Maybe that's why they added that, because that was a part of the language. But listen to these 4 things and let us decide, are we all in? Are we all in? Number 1, with all your heart. The heart is intimacy. Are you all in? Am I all in? Are we all in being intimate with God? Intimacy is a present word. It's a close word. It's a connected word. Am I all in? Part of being all in with God is saying, God, I want to be intimate with you. And the only way to do that is to know. And therefore, I have His Word to know. In our lives, the most intimate of our relationships is because we know deeper and better than anybody else. With all your heart. With all your soul. The soul in the Hebrew apparently has the main value of just life-giving. And therefore, in the idea, it would be how intense do you want to be with the Lord? I'm all in. But what about your intensity? Energy, your effort. To the greatest degree that I can. What are the things in your life that are most intense with you? What is it that stirs you? What is it that grabs your attention? And that's the concept of intensity. And Jesus said, I want you all in your intensity. Number 3, with all your mind. The mind is the thought process, your reasoning, your way to say, this is what I know and this is what I think. And Jesus is saying, I want you all in with your intention. I want you to want me. To intend. For instance, why are you here? Is it by accident? Were you driving someplace and because the car comes here a lot, it just showed up in the parking lot and you go, oh, I think I'll just stay now? I bet you've done that before in some other ways, right? I have left my house going in a direction with the intention of going one place because that's where I need to go, but because I've always gone this particular way, I went that way and then I go, I've done it 4 or 5 times in the last 13 years going to pick up Tammy. On Sunday morning, I'll drive out. I know right where I'm going, and all of a sudden I'll turn left, and I go, turn around, come back. I intended to go get her, but I went the wrong way. You're not here because you went the wrong way. You're here because you intended to be here. Jesus said, I want you all in your intention. And then we add the word strength. The word strength is the word that really discusses the workload, the effort, the service, your activity. And Jesus says, I want you all in with your involvement. If you're all in with the Richmond church, then you are wanting to be involved. You don't want to be on the sideline. You talk about watching, I've been watching a couple of the 30 for 30 things on ESPN, which are fantastic documentaries, and they'll talk about a team where they have a number of players and there's tension because there are players that don't get to play as much and they want to be on the court or on the field. Do you want to be involved? Are you trying to find ways to be involved, or are you figuring out ways to be seen without really doing anything? Planning other things because I don't really want to be involved. And Jesus said, you need to be all in. And that's what he told these leaders. You see, they had the appearance, but not the actual all in. It looked like they were all in. They walked around with the robes. They walked around with a certain air. They could quote scripture. They lived in a certain way. And it looked like they're all in. They weren't. And I sure don't want to look like I'm all in without actually being all in. So I guess I leave us tonight with this question. Are you all in? Do you want to be fully intimate in knowledge of God? Is it your intention to be with God? Intending to do absolutely everything you can with the greatest intensity that's possible? Being involved any way that you can. That's what Jesus wants. That's what he expects. I hope that's what we're striving for here. So, as Jesus called people to be all in, I'm just going to echo that call. I want you to be all in. If you're not, if you need us to help you be all in, maybe we'll help you. I know we will. But maybe you just need to say it between you and God and just do it. But if we can help you, will you come as we stand and sing?
We hope that you enjoyed today's broadcast, brought to you by the Richmond Church of Christ. We are located at 1500 Lancaster Road in Richmond, Kentucky. We meet at 9 a.m. each Sunday morning for Bible class, followed by our morning worship service held at 10 a.m. Our Sunday evening service is held at 6 p.m. Our midweek Bible study is held on Wednesday at 7 p.m. We have Bible classes available for all ages on Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings. If you are in the area, we would love to have you as our honored guest. If you're looking for a home church, We would love to make you part of our family here in Richmond. We hope this has been a blessing to you and pray that you have been strengthened and encouraged. Have a blessed day.